Hi, my name is Denise, and I'm happy to be here to have this chance to speak with you about this exciting new Greater Glider project. To be honest, I'm happy to talk to anybody who'll listen to me about Greater Gliders. So you can imagine how happy I am to be able to spend a few days connecting, even remotely, with an entire symposium of people who share my enthusiasm for gliders. So just a little bit about myself. I'm just completing a PhD been working on Greater Gliders at JCU. It's primarily looking at how variation in body size between greater glider populations is associated with thermal tolerance and nutrition. And also currently, I'm working as an advisor on this project. So this is just a brief outline of my presentation today. So we'll talk about the background, the project overview, the objectives of the project, and then I'd like to introduce you to the ANU team. So just a little bit of Greater Glider background, because I'm sure that most of you already know a whole lot about Greater Gliders. So I just wanted to highlight a couple of the life history traits which play heavily into their conservation and management. First, the fact that they're folivores means that they rely solely on leaves for not only their supply of food, but their source of water. This is critically important in the context of extreme temperature events and climate change. Many animals can drink water freely and use that water to cool their body through evaporative water loss. We do this through sweating. Other animals do it through panting or by licking their fur. However, the amount of water available to greater gliders is restricted to the amount of water available in the leaves that they eat. And then that's even further restricted by the fact that they're very small for herbivores. And that means they have a small gut capacity, and it takes a long time to digest eucalypt leaves. So all of that really limits the amount of water that they can get into their body. Now, when you bring the fact in that they're hollow dependent, that also makes life difficult for gliders. Not only do they need a house, but they need a relatively large house. In fact, sort of a mansion in standards of tree hollows. So we know that trees often need to be several hundred years old before they can produce hollows large enough for a greater glider. This means that they can be quite rare in the habitat, and competition for these hollows can also be great. And greater gliders are pretty docile, so they're not very competitive. We also know that once, not very long ago, greater gliders were common and widespread. However, recently there have been significant declines in greater gliders in both Victoria and New South Wales. There may also be declines in Queensland, but there's just so few studies that we simply don't have the data there. I've also included one example of declines, and I only included one because David Lindemeyer has a whole talk devoted to this topic, so I'll leave that for him. But as you may know, he found a decline of around 80% in site occupancy in his long-term research sites in the Central Highlands. So these are some of the known drivers of decline that greater gliders are sensitive to. So things like fire, logging, owl predation, habitat fragmentation, and climate change. But in addition, research is starting to understand that there are strong interactions between some of these drivers, such as climate change and habitat disturbance, but key information gaps remain here. I want to speak to you more specifically about this exciting new large-scale project that brings together a strong team of researchers with a unique set of fit-for-purpose skills, and will draw on a high level of ANU expertise generated from long-term experience in working on greater glider research in a wide range of areas across Eastern Australia. Their considerable expertise has been built over the past 3 decades from an array of key investigations. The project will focus on key issues critical to the conservation and management of the greater glider. And a bit later, I'll speak to you in more detail about the specific objectives of the project. This project was designed to combine existing long-term data sets with new studies and experiments to build upon and extend our existing understanding about the ecology, management, and conservation of the greater glider. The ANU team will consult extensively with other groups at Australian universities and elsewhere that are working on greater gliders to ensure that work is not duplicated, but rather substantially expands and adds new knowledge that's of relevance to management. This will be done by combining existing long-term data sets with new studies and experiments to increase our understanding of these drivers of decline. Here are the 5 objectives. The first objective is to use all the data available to identify local drivers of decline and develop targeted strategies to limit the decline of greater gliders in these areas. Next, key areas of refuge for greater gliders will be located in 3 target areas: East Gippsland, Central Highlands, and the Strathbogie Ranges. Then, experiments and studies will be established and implemented. This project has a strong focus on community engagement, and the ANU research team will work in partnership with DELWP, local community groups, and NGOs, with the final goal to develop an overarching set of management recommendations aimed at promoting the conservation of greater gliders. So I'm going to go into each of these objectives in just a bit more detail. The first objective is to expand the existing knowledge of the drivers of greater glider decline. And these are some of the possible studies to be included. So looking at daytime and nighttime microclimate experienced by gliders in forests of different ages and levels of disturbance. So a bit of a side note here, Kara Youngatab is giving a talk on the possible effects of increasing nighttime temperatures and how they may affect the feeding and digestion of greater gliders. I was lucky enough to get a sneak preview of this, and it's really interesting, so I highly recommend listening to that talk. Okay, so then there can also be nutritional studies that will look at comparing the quality of habitats across landscapes, as well as levels of disturbance, and also relationships between soil fertility and browse quality. And lastly, studies to continue the long-term monitoring of gliders in the Central Highlands. So, in Objective 2, the project seeks to identify key refugia for the greater glider. This includes making spatial predictions of areas, which will be based on a number of factors that will include climate, both broad scale and microclimate, weather, browse quality, geology, soil fertility, and past disturbances, just to name a few, as well as interactions between these factors. We propose to test the efficacy of these predictive models in field surveys and cross-validate them with cutting-edge statistical analysis. The third objective is to limit the decline of greater glider populations through habitat restoration and experimental mitigations. Some possible manipulative experiments and management interventions may include, if approved, things like ecological thinning programs aimed at improving the nutritional landscape by removing some poor quality feed trees, such as silvertop ash, which is commonly seen after disturbance, in favor of higher quality food tree species. This type of work would occur in close cooperation with DELWP. Additionally, we hope to develop thermally appropriate nest boxes for greater gliders based on the current understanding of thermal tolerance of the species, as well as new insights on the thermal properties of natural tree hollows. Nest box designs could occur in cooperation with the College of Engineering and Computer Science at ANU to develop next generation habitat hollows. The fourth objective focuses on communicating and working regularly in partnership with community groups, traditional owners, and DELWP. These partnerships will be important not only during the course of the project, but will benefit the glider in the long term. There will be opportunities for the community to be involved in targeted citizen science work as part of the established ongoing development of the research, as well as the maintenance. Some examples of this could include stag watch surveys, spotlight surveys, leaf sampling, and nest box monitoring and maintenance. The last objective is to draw together the insights from the key themes in the overall research program, coupled with findings of research conducted by others, to develop an overarching set of management recommendations aimed at promoting the medium to long-term conservation of the greater glider. These recommendations will be carefully crafted in consultation with DELWP officials and community groups, including traditional owners. Lastly, I just wanted to introduce the members of the ANU team for this project. They bring together a unique set of complementary skills in animal ecology and physiology, including nutrition and temperature sensitivity, as well as spatial analysis, experimental design, and statistical analysis. All team members work together on previous high-impact research and monitoring projects, and all have a proven track record of delivering on major projects. The project lead is David Lindemeyer, who has 36 years of experience with arboreal marsupials. The research fellows are Kara Youngatab and Karen Ford, who have a high level of expertise in nutritional ecology and arboreal marsupial ecology and physiology. Wade Blanchard, who's an expert statistical scientist who will help to oversee the design, the analysis, and the interpretation of all aspects of the project. And Tabitha Boyer, who's worked with David Lindemeyer for 6 years, providing administrative and editorial support. Lastly, I just wanted to provide you with my contact information in case you'd like to reach me to talk more about greater gliders just in general or specifically about this project. And with that, I'd like to thank you for listening to my presentation and thank the Glideways Symposium for the invitation to present to you today. Thank you. Have a good day.